Hello everyone, welcome to my channel SW Metro official channel. Finally, Kody Brown is newly married, and the news has shaken the entire sister wives world to its core, because for years it seemed like he would cling to Robyn until the end of time, defending her above everyone else, alienating his other wives, and pushing the original family dream of unity into the ground. But in a twist that no fan could have predicted, Robyn has been kicked out of the house and stripped of the influence she once wielded over him, while Janelle, the steady and practical partner who had endured years of heartbreak, sacrifice, and financial tension, has finally regained ownership of the property at Coyote Pass, symbolizing not only her resilience but also the ultimate reversal of fortune in a saga that has stretched on for over a decade. Because if you rewind to the early days of Sister Wives, Kody was the patriarch with 4 women who tolerated his moods, his ego, and his endless obsession with control, and yet, beneath the surface, there was always a crack forming, a weakness in his armor that Robyn exploited when she entered the family in Season 1, presenting herself as sweet and submissive but slowly becoming the most influential voice in his ear. And while Christine eventually broke away and found happiness with David Woolley, fans always believed that Janelle might never get true closure, because she was financially entangled with Kody in ways the others were not, tied to the land, the investments, and the promises of a one big house dream that never materialized. But now everything has been flipped upside down, as Robyn's tears and manipulations have worn thin not only with the audience but apparently with Kody himself, who has remarried a mystery woman who, according to reports, doesn't want the spotlight, doesn't want to film, and doesn't want to play the endless reality TV game, preferring instead to offer him the companionship and stability that Robyn failed to provide when she was consumed with jealousy, favoritism, and her endless woe is me storylines. And the irony is almost Shakespearean, because Robyn once gloated about being the legal wife, the one with the paperwork and protections, the one whose kids were prioritized, yet here she is, discarded and alone, no longer the queen of the castle, while Janelle, the woman who quietly worked, budgeted, and held the family together through years of financial stress, finally reclaimed her power through the property, which has been at the center of disputes for years, as fans watched the endless arguments about dividing, redividing, and financing those Flagstaff lots, only for Kody to finally lose control of the narrative, because with his new wife at his side, someone who reportedly pushed him to clean up his past messes, Janelle was able to secure her rightful share, and maybe even more, because she was the one who fought hardest for her independence after the family crumbled. And if you think about it, this dramatic reversal is poetic justice. Since Robyn's dominance came at the cost of everyone else's happiness, but now she has no husband, no land, and no real say in the family legacy, while Janelle, who was once cast aside as the business-minded wife with no emotional connection, now has the land she dreamed of building on and the freedom to decide her future without Kody's manipulation hanging over her. And fans online are divided, some celebrating Robyn's downfall as karma, while others pity her, wondering how she'll survive without the protection she clung to for so long. But almost everyone agrees that Janelle deserves this win, because she spent decades investing in Kody's dreams only to be sidelined when Robyn entered, and now the tables have turned so drastically that Kody's remarriage feels less like a personal rebirth and more like the ultimate end to the polygamist experiment that began in Utah years ago, since he is no longer a plural husband, no longer the center of 4 women's universe, but instead a broken man trying to reinvent himself, while the women he once underestimated, Christine, Janelle, and even Mary, are proving they can thrive without him. And in this final chapter, the symbolism is clear. Robyn's tears could not save her place, Janelle's persistence gave her the property back, and Kody's marriage to someone new shows that he is desperate to rewrite his own story. But the legacy of Sister Wives will always be tied to the women who walked away, the property battles that defined them, and the shocking moment when the so-called favorite wife was kicked out of the house, replaced, and left with nothing while the others finally found the freedom they had been seeking for years. Kody Brown, a man who mistook control for leadership and petulance for principle. The central, agonizing tension of the entire narrative has always been the glaring disconnect between Kody's professed ideals of a united family and his blatant, unwavering devotion to his 4th wife, Robyn, a woman who masterfully played the victim while simultaneously holding the deed to Kody's soul and the combination to the family safe, creating a fortress of 2 that systematically excluded the very women and children he claimed to cherish. Therefore, the triple header of revelations, that Kody is newly married, Robyn was kicked out of the house, and Janelle got the property back, doesn't just feel like a twist, it feels like the universe's meticulously crafted, long-awaited finale, a cosmic rebalancing of scales so dramatic it borders on mythological. The first act of this stunning reversal, Kody's new marriage, is the ultimate testament to his staggering lack of self-awareness. This is a man who spent years bemoaning the collapse of his plural family, weeping not for the loss of his relationships with Mary, Janelle, or Christine, but for the ruin of his own dream, his own identity as a patriarch. To see him so swiftly and publicly replace not just one wife but the entire concept he claimed to hold sacred with a new, shiny model exposes the profound emptiness of his original convictions. It was never about celestial plural marriage, it was about Kody being the sun, with wives as planets reflecting his light. The new wife, whoever she may be, is merely a new satellite, a fresh source of adoration for a man whose hunger for validation is bottomless. It is the final, irrefutable proof that the other women were never truly loved as individuals but were valued for their utility in building his kingdom, and once they ceased to be useful or compliant, they were discarded, their replacements already being auditioned in his mind. This isn't a rebirth of his principles, it is their funeral, a garish celebration of his own hypocrisy. Yet, this new union pales in comparison to the sheer, jaw-dropping irony of the second act. Robyn, the perennial favorite, the architect of so much division, finally being kicked out of the McMansion she prized so highly. This is the house that dysfunction built, purchased with family funds while other wives struggled, the symbol of the two-tiered system she and Kody operated. To imagine her being expelled from that very fortress is a narrative payoff of Shakespearean proportions. This was her reward, her security, the tangible proof that she had won the game of vying for Kody's attention. Her entire identity within the family was constructed around being the obedient, supportive wife in the nice house, the keeper of Kody's heart and, by extension, his assets. To lose that, to be physically removed from the symbol of her victory, suggests a cataclysm within the one relationship everyone believed was unbreakable. It implies that Kody's fickle nature, once directed solely at others, finally turned inward on his monogamous partnership. Perhaps the money ran out, and the financial strain that doomed his other marriages finally poisoned his union with Robyn. Perhaps without other wives to blame and manipulate, the cracks in their foundation became canyons. Perhaps Kody simply grew bored once the challenge of winning her was over and the reality of a relationship built on triangulation and secrecy set in. Her eviction is the ultimate consequence, proving that a victory built on the ashes of others is inherently unstable. She played a short-term game and, in the end, found herself alone outside the very gates she helped close on others. But the most satisfying, the most profoundly just element of this entire tectonic shift is the third act, Janelle, the family's long-suffering financial pragmatist and emotional rock, getting the property back. Of all the wives, Janelle's betrayal was the most clinical and thus the most cruel. She was not the romantic spouse, she was the logical partner, the one who entered the family with a clear head and a steady hand, believing in the principle of a shared future. She managed budgets, planned for retirement, and invested her money and her faith into the family pot, all with the understanding that Coyote Pass was their collective legacy. To see that trust violated, to see her funds potentially funneled into Robyn's mansion while she lived in an RV, was a visceral injustice that resonated with every viewer who has ever been taken advantage of by a poor business partner. Her quiet strength in leaving was monumental, but to have her investment returned to her is nothing short of a restoration of order. It is the universe declaring that good sense, patience, and integrity will, eventually, be rewarded. Getting that property back is more than just a financial victory, it is the redemption of her faith. It is the land literally becoming her legacy, not Kody's failed dream. She can now build her own home on her own terms, on the soil that was always meant to be her future, free from the draining drama and financial chaos of a man who could never see her true value. It is a new beginning built on the solid ground of her own competence, a stark contrast to the shaky foundation of lies and favoritism she left behind. In the end, this stunning trifecta of events is the final, definitive chapter in the story of Kody Brown's polygamy. It proves that the structure was never sustainable because its center could not hold. A system requiring absolute selflessness from its participants cannot be led by a man of absolute selfishness. The new marriage is his admission that he needs a wife, any wife, to define him. Robyn's ejection is the karmic proof that no one truly wins in a game of favorites. And Janelle's reclamation of her property is the enduring truth that those who operate with honesty and foresight will ultimately inherit their own future. The family is finally, truly, and irrevocably broken, but from its ashes, the wronged are rising, while the architects of its demise are left to survey the ruins of their own creation.